good afternoon, everybody. I'm Deb Sofield, and you're listening to my weekly radio show called Encouragement for Your Life. Many of you know I'm a national speaker, trainer, and coach, and I like to say I help people find their voice and learn to use it. I'm also a conference speaker on the topics of public speaking, how to deal with the media, and crisis communication. I also have a very large interview business, so if you know of someone interviewing for a college, job, law, medical school, please reach out. If you also are part of a team that deals with conferences for your organization, I hope you'll find me at debsofield.com. I'd love to be a part. If you're interested in any of my books, you can go to Amazon or Audible. My books are in both locations. Just type in my name, Deb Sofield, and all my books will appear. I've got a great theme today because it is something that I've been thinking about in the new year, and that is the value of your name, and I'm going to add reputation. I'm Deb Sofield. Thanks for spending this next half hour with me. Hey, let's get started with today's show. A while back, I was speaking to a group, and the topic of my conversation was the value of your name and reputation. It's something that had been rolling around in my head for a while, and I thought I would just put it on paper and now here on my radio show. Have to admit, I really like that topic, and that's why I've chosen it for my theme for today here as we're beginning a new year. Friend, I want to talk to you about the value of your name and reputation. I have to ask, when people hear your name, what do they think? What comes to mind when someone says your name? Now, for some of you, don't fall out of your chair because you know what people think of you when they hear your name. And for some of you, it's not good. But I'll get back to that in a minute. If you're like me, you hope that when people hear your name, that it's a positive response. Not only do I hope that the response is one that reflects my abilities, but also, if it's a close friend, I trust the memory will show my heart and who I really am or what I've become as I've gotten older. If I were to give you a list of my titles, they vary from business partner to business owner, author, city council member, water commissioner, auctioneer, real estate agent, manufacturer, antique store owner, speaker, radio host, podcaster, and the list goes on and on. You find out over time that there are other titles for you as well. I was known for a long time when I was elected on city council as the Hammer or Boss Lady. And without a doubt, I'm sure there are titles I've been called that I probably shouldn't say on the radio. Like you, I hope as we get older, those names and titles that don't reflect us anymore, well, I just hope they go away. And I trust our former friends and family replace them with good thoughts and great memories of times gone by. Of course, the unfortunate fact is, some people will never like you or me. So they either make up titles and names for us, or they do their best to destroy our good name. If you've been in politics or business long enough, you know who to stay away from. Because no matter what we do, the mean and crazy people will use the only thing they have, and that is the verbal destruction of our good name. So it's best to stay away from those people. I found out over time, word gets out that they're a nut. I admit, the older I get, the less impressed I am with titles. Yeah, there was a time I would look at titles and think, wow, but I've come to understand that titles come and go. And I have found that many times the title might be the best thing about a person because their actions and attitude are, well, I'll just say it, awful. And that's what I remember about them. The reality is, a title is just something that is given if you stay in one place long enough. And just because your name is glued on a little block of wood that sits on your office desk, it may not reflect who you really are. In my work, I have met some amazingly well-titled people who are dreadful to their employees or who are unkind to their spouse and treat others with disdain. Now, in most cases, that troubled attitude is a cover-up for an empty person, and unfortunately, we can't fix that. So to all those people that I've now stirred up in your mind who are mean and awful, I'll tell you what, let's put their memory away for now. And let's talk about you and your reputation and how you are thought of today and how you will be thought of when you're dead and gone. Most every religious text will have a passage about the value of a good name. In the Bible, it says that a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. The simple fact is, a good reputation will provide for you in ways that money never can. I'm going to equate the value associated with your name to the idea of the value of having a reputation that's admired by others. Because really, that's what I'm talking about today. Oh, dear listener, your title is not your reputation. Your name is. In fact, your name and reputation are interwoven so closely that it's wise to think about how you show up to others. I think one of the most interesting things that has shown up in the last few years on the internet is all the services that can help you clean up your name and reputation by simply pulling all the bad information about you or your company out of circulation on the World Wide Web. Now, wouldn't that be great if in life we could just hire a firm to scour the minds of all the people we know and fill the damaged places with good and happy thoughts about us and our reputation? I think that'd be a very cool thing, but alas, that won't happen. So you and I, well, we have to be the guardian of our name and reputation. And thinking about this, let me give you the top 3 actions that I, Deb Sofield, see that people will not forget or forgive, and that will damage your name and reputation forever. All right, this is just from my perspective of my many years of working not only in this community, but all over. I'll tell you, friend, if you owe money, somewhere, somehow, someone thinks or knows you didn't pay your bill. You borrowed money with a promise to pay it back, and you've not done it. Or you had someone co-sign on a loan, and you bailed, leaving them to pay your bill. When you owe money, there is nothing that can save your name or reputation, because you now have a new name: thief, robber, one who steals. And they don't just tell their family, they tell everyone they meet that you don't pay your bills or that you still owe them money. Ouch! Listen, if there's a way to correct this, I encourage you to bite the bullet and pay off the debt or start a payment plan. Something's better than nothing. And when you do nothing, they will do everything in their power to wreck your name and reputation. There's something about money that makes normally good people, I'll just say it, insane and angry. So do your part. Pay your bills. Stop with your excuses, because the only way out is by paying up. The second issue I hear so much that will haunt good people for life is that you borrowed something and you didn't return it, or you broke it. You know the feeling. Every time you see the person who borrowed the item from you, you hide so you don't have to talk with them. Or when they see you, they bring it up every time that you borrowed something and didn't return it, or you broke it, and the old one that you borrowed was better than the new one that you replaced it with. Gracious, with some people, you can't win for losing on this one. It's best to return or replace and just be done, and quickly. And let that be a lesson, never to borrow anything from anyone again, because it rarely turns out good. The Bible says a borrower is servant to the lender, and throughout history, I'm going to say that doesn't change. The third one that I've seen, one that breaks up friends and family for all time. And here it is. If you, by your actions, have caused someone hurt and or humiliation, depending on who they are and if they can find it within themselves to really forgive, you might be spared. But from my coaching, I hear that most people will never forgive. Even if they lie and say they forgive, they don't forget. So I guess that means they never really forgave. And here's the kicker. They will walk around wounded because of what you said. Too bad you couldn't keep your mouth shut, but you didn't. And now you and everyone they talk to will hear about how you've hurt them, destroyed them, broke their heart, and now they can't trust anyone anymore. Country music has made $1 kabillion on this one action. So think about it, my friend. Now this one is tricky. I think there's 2 parts to hurt and or humiliation. The first is this: if at all possible, you need to truly apologize. And as your friend and coach, I suggest taking another friend with you when you give your apology so you have a witness. And that friend doesn't need to say anything, okay? And once you've done your part, that's really all you can do. And the second part is, we all know that some people love to hang on to their hurt so they can spend the rest of their life nursing that hurt in hopes of hurting you. Here's the fact. You can't fix that. All you can do is say you're sorry and mean it, and then be kind to them, and then stay out of their way. You and I know folks who are carrying old hurts that really have been forgiven and forgotten for 10, 15, 20 years because they love hanging on to that, thinking that it's affecting you, but the fact is you and I have moved on and they just seem sad and pathetic. I'm just going to say it. I see it happen all the time. You hurt me 15 years ago. Okay, well, what'd you do in those 15 years? They've done nothing and you've moved on. Unfortunately, fortunately, because we're people of goodwill, if you can, let's try to fix it. Because when it comes to your name and reputation, let me remind you of rule number 1 in politics. If I can label you, I can destroy you. So friends, don't allow others to label you, and don't do anything that would give others a chance to cause your good name harm. There's not enough money in the world to fix a bad reputation. Oh, they'll be glad to take your money, but they'll still speak poorly of you every chance they can. Correct early and often, and you'll save yourself in the end. I think life's too hard and too short to have to spend your days defending yourself when, if you just be wise and kind and considerate, you and I could leave a legacy that others would admire and respect. And here's the best part. Really, the best part is it is all up to you to make these choices, to make these decisions. Let's admit it, you're in control. And even if you've made mistakes in the past, you can start again with a clean slate and goodwill to rebuild your good name. Because friend, when all is said and done, our good name is all we have. So I think it's important that we care for ours. We value it, we protect it, and it will reward you and your family's legacy for a lifetime. And I think that would be a title worth having. Because the truth is, your name is valuable. Your reputation is priceless. And only you and I can make sure it stays that way. I'm Deb Sofield. This is Encouragement for Your Life, believe it or not. I'll be right back after the break. Hi, I'm Deb Sofield. If someone you know is interviewing for law school, medical school, dental school, veterinary school, college, or a job, call me. Because you need to be prepared for the interview. Together, we'll craft the answers to the questions that will be asked, even the hard ones. I'll teach you how to connect with the interviewer, work on your positive body language, and give you the powerful words and answers the interview requires. For most interviews, there's a standard set of questions that you must know the answer to. And depending on what you're interviewing for, that conversation changes. You need a coach, and I can help. I have years of experience coaching for all types of interviews. Call me. I'd like to be on your team. I'd like to be your coach. Contact me through my website, debsofield.com. Welcome back, everybody. I've got a couple quotes that I really like that I want to share with you. The first is by Lolly Daskell, and she says this: "We must guard our reputation like a precious gift. We must nurture it and nourish it daily." Warren Buffett is famous for saying it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. Steve Farber says, make sure your actions and behaviors live up to and reflect words and ideas, promises and commitments that come out of your mouth. And then Proverbs 22:1, a good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, and favor is better than silver or gold. I have to admit, I love quotes and I love those thoughts in that verse because it's true. And today my theme is about your good name and your reputation. I came across an article a number of years ago, but I really like it, by Linda Dooley, and it was called Restoring Your Reputation in the Court of Public Opinion. She says this: There's been a lot of reputation management lately of high-profile figures in the world of business, sports, and politics. And then she goes on to tell the story about Roger Clemens, one of the most decorated pitchers in Major League Baseball history. And she reminds us that he was acquitted on all the charges, that he lied to Congress when he denied using steroids to extend his career. Now, it was a huge victory for Clemens, but the court of public opinion is an entirely different beast. Remember Lance Armstrong? He found himself in a similar situation. The 7-time Tour de France winner faced charges so serious that they have banned him from the sport. So when you think about people like Clemens and Armstrong, you have to admit, who's next? And we can go on with more current examples, but I'm going from her article today. She says no matter what happens, there is still an immense amount of damage and damage control that needs to be done to restore reputations. Companies many times work overtime to restore their reputation and the luster it once had. Think about all those banks that were too big to fail. The fact is, a withered reputation, whether personal or business, it doesn't have to be permanent. Now, turnaround takes time, relentless focus, and rock-solid sincerity. And she goes on to give 5 steps that can help get you back on track. We've covered a few of these in my first part, but let me say that I think what she's written here is just a good reminder. Number 1, friends, sometimes we have to admit our mistakes. Years ago, it was the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, and as he talked about the banks that were too big to fail, he pretty much added this. We know we were sloppy. We know we were stupid. We know there was bad judgment. Now, it was interesting. Speed to admit mistakes matters in reputation restoration. He did it right. He had a simple, straightforward message that told it like it was. Dimon has taken that message even further when he had to explain to Congress that we let a lot of people down and we're sorry for it. He went on to say, when we make mistakes, we take them seriously and are often our own toughest critic. Think about some of the others. People will actually say, I did terrible things, I was wrong, there's no one responsible for me. But the fact is, if your body language doesn't add to what you're saying, not just admitting your mistake, but truly being sorry, well, that can take that big moment you had and let it crumble instantly. I think I remember John Edwards. He was running for president and he had a baby out of wedlock and he swore it wasn't his, and lo and behold, that little girl looks just like him. His reputation is gone forever. Probably a good thing. All right, number 2. Don't let someone else do the talking for you. Now, here's a tough one because sometimes our friends want to come to our aid. I appreciate that, but sometimes you and I have to be the one who just flat out needs to say what needs to be said. Whether you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company or a partner in a small startup, be your own spokesperson. Now, I'm going to add to that, sometimes you do need to hire a coach to help you craft the message, but if it's something small and you can be the voice, don't send an outside agency or a junior staffer to be the messenger. You craft the message in advance. And you, the person in charge, has to be the face and voice of that tough message. For example, sometimes you have to call a customer to apologize for a late delivery or a quality issue. That's a priority that doesn't get passed off. That's on you, my friend. Own up to your performance highs and lows of yourself and your company. Number 3, sometimes you have to say it and not send it. This is a big one. Don't hide behind an email or a text. And don't make an important phone call to an angry customer at 7 p.m. after they've left work for the day. If your company missed a deadline or you delivered a bad piece of equipment, you have to relay your sincerest apology, probably live on the phone, or if possible, maybe in person. Let me say this again. Don't send a text, a voicemail, or an email. If it's real, you might have to show up because you are more important than just sliding this to the side, and it's about your reputation. Your reputation matters. Number 4, the author says, sometimes you need to ask for feedback. A good question to pose is, what do we, or I, need to do to restore your confidence in our company? What you need to do is ask the client and then make sure you deliver on it. Ask a coworker who you've let down with that question. A couple things that it does. It is powerful because it signals that you have humility. It also opens the door to constructive conversations about ideas and improvements that may really have never been on your radar screen. There is so much to learn from the perspective of others, and using this feedback to help you and your company get better, well, it'll just make you better. Number 5, keep working on it. Remember, just because you've apologized doesn't mean you're in the clear. Sorry, folks, I wish it were that easy. People will be sizing you up in the aftermath to assess whether you walk your talk for the long term. New York Mayor Ed Koch, many years ago, constantly posed the question to the Big Apple residents and visitors. How am I doing? Great question. You need data points beyond yourself to gauge the progress being made in revitalizing your reputation. So friends, sometimes, just sometimes, I want to encourage you to ask others and keep working. Have to admit, I really like that article. I know it's a little unusual for a Saturday show, but I came across another handful of quotes that I just want to share because, Fred, your reputation matters. And a lot depends on our reputation, and we've got to guard it with our life. And that's the headline of this next article by Alexander Sandalis, I believe. And his headline is, "So much depends on reputation, guard it with your life." He says, the keys to power. These are some great quotes. In the social realm, appearances are the barometer of almost all of our judgments. And you must never be misled into believing otherwise. One false slip, one awkward or sudden change in your appearance can prove disastrous. This is the reason for the supreme importance of making and maintaining a reputation that is of your own creation. Then the author goes on to say, this is why it's critical to be aware and in control of how you are perceived. And then he asks the question, but how do we do this when we're largely relying on other people's minds and actions, which are largely out of our control? Or are they? The author says, it's as simple as controlling appearances. We can control a large degree of how we appear, which in turn reflects a large degree on how others perceive us. He gives this quote, humans don't have the mental capacity to question every single detail of every single thing presented to them on a daily basis. We accept a lot of things at face value. So when you present yourself to someone as super high confidence individual, people have no choice but to perceive you as such. The more people who are perceiving you and treating you a certain way based on a perception which you've provided for them, the more your actions and thoughts will morph to match the expectations of the people around you. You have complete control over what people around you expect from you. Because their expectations can only be based on their perceptions are controlled by the way you present yourself. And that's a quote from Dree Baldwin. I like that, and I think it's very true. You hold yourself to a high standard, you carry yourself with grace, you treat people mercifully, you are kind. That becomes the expectation, that becomes who you are. I love the next one. A solid reputation increases your presence and exaggerates your strengths without you having to spend much energy. It can also create an aura around you that will instill respect, maybe even fear. Your reputation inevitably precedes you, and if it inspires respect, a lot of your work is done for you before you arrive on the scene, or even say a single word. Let me give you 2 more. Reputation is a treasure to be carefully collected and hoarded. Once it is solid, do not let yourself get angry or defensive at the slanderous comments of your enemies. That reveals insecurity, not confidence in your reputation. Take the high road instead, and never appear desperate in your self-defense. And I'll end with this one. There is no possible reversal. Reputation is critical. There are no exceptions to this law. Perhaps not caring what others think of you, you gain a reputation for insolence and arrogance. But that might be a valuable image in itself. Oscar Wilde said it best. Since we must live in a society and must depend on the opinions of others, there is nothing to be gained by neglecting your reputation. By not caring how you're perceived, you let others decide this for you. Our friend, be the master of your fate and also of your reputation. Those were some great quotes I found in an article by Alexander Sandalis called "So Much Depends on Your Reputation, Friends, Guard It With Your Life." I really couldn't agree more. And I know it's an unusual thought, but as you're coming into the new year, I hate to say it, people will bump up against you. They'll try to hurt you, maybe on purpose, maybe out of ignorance, but either way, you are in charge. So please put your best self forward and be your amazing self. You are 1 in 8 billion. God created you to do more than you're doing. Friends, step into the light. Step up into what you've been given and shine brightly for others. I'm Deb Sofield. This is Encouragement for Your Life. I hope you'll join me next week. Same time, same place. Have a good one, everybody.